Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the notation of large numbers in isolation. That is to say, if you were presented with the number 3.6 billion, would you be able to take note of it quickly and accurately? Or if I said 1,365,402, would you be able to take note of that quickly and accurately? In order to do so, you need to be very familiar with the English number system. And the basics of that system are as follows. So let's take the number 100. The number 100 has the value 1 in the hundreds placement and zeros for the tens and ones placement. It goes ones, tens, hundreds. Now let's look at 1,000. The number 1,000 has the number 1 in the thousandths place and zeros in the hundreds, tens, and ones position. So you have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. So the English number system likes to utilize groups of 3. The placement of numbers are written in groups of 3. So let's look at the number 100,000. Why do we write 100,000 the way that we write it? Well, because we have a 1 placed in the hundred thousandths place, because it's 100,000, and you have zeros elsewhere, and the zeros are all necessary. Okay, so let's look at the number, I can pull it up here. Let's look at the number 12,506,825,001. So we have our hundreds placement, thousands, millions, and billions in groups of 3. So you would say 12,506,825,001. You would not say 12,506,825,000, because even though there are multiple thousands, you would just say 1,000. To do so otherwise would be to do so incorrectly. All right, so we must remember that numbers are always in these groups of 3 digits except for numbers under 100 and numbers that are in the group furthest to the left. So if we look here and we see 10,203,006, that's okay, written just fine. The number 26, even though it's a group of 2 numbers, just fine. But if you see 100,023,145 written without the appropriate 0 before the 2, that's not okay, because you have to have those numbers in groups of 3. Please also note that sometimes people will say very large numbers as fractions. So if we have the number 4,250,000, you could also say 4.25 million and be just as accurate. So we have a few final notes. Whenever you are writing the numbers, make sure that you're using commas and periods in the appropriate places, okay? We use commas between our large number groupings. So for example, 2.006 is a totally different number than 2006, strictly by virtue of swapping out the comma and the period. Both are valid numbers, but yeah, they're very different. And as a little disclaimer, as you've been watching along in this presentation, when you are writing large numbers and taking dictation of large numbers, you do not need to leave spaces between your commas and the number groupings. I did that in this video for emphasis in certain sections, but you don't need to. So if you look at the example below, you'll see there is no space between the 2, the comma, and the 4 in the correct way of writing that large number.